Hello, in this video I'm going to be talking about the reduceRight method built into arrays in ES5 JavaScript and beyond. Now reduceRight is just like reduce, except it starts from the right side of the array, from the end of the array, and works its way toward the beginning. So prerequisite to understanding reduceRight, you want to understand reduce. So if you don't understand reduce, go out and find resources on that. I'm going to put a link to our video explaining reduce in the resources for this as well. So let's not do that and let's move on. So we've got this array of sample data, and I've got some numbers. I have some exam scores here. And let's talk about, without using reduceRight, how would we write code to compute the result of subtracting values in set 4 starting from the right. So my intention here, here's set 4. I'm going to start from the right, so 4 minus 3 minus 2 minus 1. How do we get that final result there? So to write code for that, it's not difficult, but it's also not very pretty. You know, there's a lot of weird things you have to do. So I've written this function, difference from right. Here's an array parameter. I'm using TypeScript. Don't worry about that if you're not using TypeScript. You can just ignore this type annotation. So there's just a parameter called array. And that's the array we're going to be looking at and reducing from the right. So I created a variable called len. It's array.length minus 1. This is pretty typical. You'll see this a lot. And then I say that the difference is going to start with just the value. Take a look at the value at the end of the array. So that's the number 4. Or if we were doing this for set 3, it would be the number 31. And then I have a for loop where I say I starts at the second from last element. So again, because of the way reduce works, and the accumulator starts as the first element, and then we take a look starting at the second to last element, that's why we're actually going to start the first value at 29 or 3, whichever one of these data sets we use. So let I equal len minus 1. Continue while I is greater than or equal to 0, I minus minus. So I'm going to say difference minus equals, so decrement difference by the current value. Okay, so in other words, difference equals difference minus the current value in the array. And then once the for loop is finished, I'm just going to return the final difference that I've computed. And the way I call this, I just call difference from right, this method I wrote, and pass in the array. So I'm doing this on set 4. So that would yield, 4 minus 3, that's going to be 1. 1 minus 2, that's going to be negative 1. Negative 1 minus 1, that's going to be negative 2. So that would be the answer we got. That's what we're looking for. So now let's use reduceRight. So compute the result of subtracting values in set 4 starting from the left. So for this first one, I'm actually not going to use reduceRight. I'm going to use reduce just to show you that, a lot of times people will think it's going to have the same result if you reduce and reduceRight. So I'm going to show you that that's not actually the case. So for this one, I'm going to say let answer equal, how do we do this? We start with the name of the array, so set 4, because this is a method built into the array, dot reduce. And I want to compute the result of subtracting the values. So here's my callback, and again, not going to spend too much time on this because you should understand how reduce works already before taking a look at this. So here's ACC, here's my value, and I'm going to implicitly return ACC minus value. So let me console log that answer. Okay. And then let's go ahead and do the same thing with the reduceRight. So now answer is going to be equal to set4.reduceRight. Again, taking ACC and value and implicitly returning ACC minus value. And I'm going to console log the answer. So let's see the results here. So I'm using TypeScript. I have a custom build process set up, so just ignore this part. The important part is the code I've selected here. This is going to work on the front end or the back end in just a plain JavaScript file. Okay, so the first result I got was -8. So that was the first answer here. That was calling reduce and taking the difference. And we're on set 4. So starting from the left, because that's how reduce works, 1 minus 2 is -1. And then -1 minus 3 is -4. -4 minus 4 is -8. All right, same thing, we're subtracting all these numbers, but we're going to do reduce right now. So now, instead of starting with +1, we're starting with +4. So this is where the difference comes in, because we're starting on this side. 4 minus 3, that gives us 1, minus 2, that gives us -1, minus 1 again gives us -2, okay? So that is the result we got before, and that's the result we're seeing now. So that is how reduceRight works. Personally, I've never used this a lot. That doesn't mean it's not valid and it's not useful. So if you come across reduceRight in the wild, or if you have this amazing idea that you need to reduce from the right, then this is how you do it, and I hope you find it useful.